Controversial mayor,
The
and
better he
this
is, the happier I
changes
am. I feel
everything.
very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people. Actually,
Trump's doing something very
Congratulations.
strategic here. Wait till you see what it is.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on the place of
Democrats aren't
shared
going to like
admiration
this.
and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people
Just watch.
who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president. I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New
Okay, by
Yorkers.
having this meeting, Trump just elevated Zoran Mondani, who says he is a socialist, to the top of the Democrat Party. And that has massive implications for future elections in this country.
But just days ago, you referred to President Trump as a despot who had betrayed the country. You said you'd be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda.
He did say that.
Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views. And what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers.
Do you
And
hear
frankly,
that?
that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty.
They-
And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to
By
work
having
together.
this
Yes,
meeting,
please.
Trump has basically signaled to everybody in America who cares about affordability that he and Zoran Mondani care about it to the same degree. This is a huge issue in the midterm elections, and Trump right now is setting it up so that people who are comfortable voting for Mr. Mondani, even though he's a socialist because he cares about affordability, will also be comfortable continuing to vote for the president.
New Yorkers who had voted for the president last November on
And there is
Hillside
voter
Avenue and
overlap.
Fulham Road, I asked them why. I heard again and again 2 major reasons. One was that they wanted an end to forever wars. They wanted an end to the taxpayer dollars we had funding violations of human rights, and they wanted to address the cost of living crisis.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Look at 'em all.
President, you've threatened to send federal troops to New York City.
Oh, yeah.
You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you've called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
So I think we're going to work
Yep.
them out. And I
Gonna
think
work
that,
together.
If we have
Figure it out.
known murderers and some very bad people, we want to get them out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a
Right.
success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there are horrible people there, we want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out maybe more than I do. So we'll work together. We discussed it at great length.
So
Yes,
you've got to understand something. If Trump were to have this meeting and Trump were to alienate Mr. Mamdani or go to war with him in some way, that's just going to push voters away. That's just going to make people think, you know what? These politicians, they don't actually care about solving my problems, my quality of life problems, my high rent, my unaffordable groceries. But by doing this, Trump is totally squashing that. He's eliminating the argument that only one political party in this country cares about affordability, and he's doing it way ahead of schedule. But now the implication is you are going to have people who vote for Mr. Mamdani, who voted for Trump previously, and then vote for candidates like Trump again in the future. The idea that people are voting along party lines is gone after this meeting.
And too often politicians are looking to lecture
Right.
to New Yorkers what they should care about as opposed to listen. And when we spoke to those voters who voted for
Right.
President Trump, we heard them speak about cost of living. We focused on that same cost of living. And that's where I am really looking forward to delivering for New Yorkers in partnership with the president on the affordability agenda.
And I think we have to.
You
work
can't
on what we talked
underestimate
about Con
the
Edison.
voter
We have to work
overlap
on
here.
getting the prices, because, we've gotten fuel prices way down, but it hasn't shown up in Con Edison.
I want to ask the mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing.
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology.
He's not
but
hiding.
The place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment
they're trying to
calling the
pin him.
president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay, you can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, it's easier. It's easier than explaining it, I don't mind.
And Mr. President, I wanted
See?
to ask you also
This is
about
huge.
this Ukraine plan.
This is going to tell voters that they don't have to be afraid of supporting one political party over the other. It's okay to cross the aisle. It's okay to vote for the other team if you like the candidate. And that is huge, because typically people want to vote straight ticket. Typically people want to vote straight down the middle. But now that's all going away. The era of political parties may be gone after this meeting, and that's what nobody's talking about.
Mr. President, the cost of living is something that you and Mr. Mamdani seem to agree on. Democrats have
See?
run New York City for a long time, Mr. Mamdani. Do you see Democrat policy specifically as being a problem? And I'd like that be a question that both of you could answer in New York City.
Look, I think that there are many things in our city where we have to own the responsibility of it, things that existed long before the president was the president. And those are also part of the message of our campaign, was to take on a broken politics of the past. And I ran against a number of candidates who represented different versions of that past. And what we found
Yeah.
time and again is that working
For
people
sure.
were left behind in the politics of our city. And what we're
That's
looking
it.
to do is put those people right back at the heart of our politics, so that we don't have a situation
As
where
they
we're in
should
the
be.
wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet
With
one
the
in
most
5 can't
poverty.
even afford $2.90 for a Metro card.
It's crazy.
We had some interesting conversation, and some of his ideas really are the same ideas that I have. But a big thing on cost, the new word is affordability. Another word is just
Right.
groceries. It's sort of an old-fashioned word, but it's very accurate. And they're coming down high. They were, we had, both of us, we had the highest inflation in the history of our country the last 4 years
Yep.
under the Biden administration. And
That's
we've
right.
got inflation down now to a normal number. It's going to go even a little bit lower than that. Katie, do you have something?
Mr. President, thank you so much. Mr. Mamdani often talks about New York City being covered by international law, that they will follow international law.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't often
This is
talk about the
interesting.
U.S. Constitution. What is your response to that?
They're all trying to make them
Well, I
fight.
don't know what you're referring to in terms of it can be covered by international law, local law. It's covered by a lot of laws, but it's covered by U.S. law. Are you referring to anything in particular?
He just says that they're a city that
Ooh.
endorses and enforces international law.
He has to beat back the attempts to get them to fight.
Would you want to respond?
Yeah, I think what I've shared with the president is our desire
And he's giving
to
him
not only
ground.
follow the laws of our own city, laws that protect
Building
New
him up
Yorkers,
as the
but
leader
also
of the Democrats.
desire for consistency in our politics across the board. And that's something that we've talked
Yeah.
about, and something that I know many New Yorkers want.
After this meeting, every Democrat in the country is going to have to get behind Zoran Mamdani, who has said that he's a socialist and has policies that in the past have never worked. Now, if he can work with Trump and good things can happen in New York, I am all for that. I think everybody is for that. But it totally flips the landscape around here. These moderate Democrats, I think they're gone. I think they're dinosaurs after this.
We were with ICE then?
We discussed ICE and New York City, and I
ICE.
spoke about how the laws that we have in New York City allow for New York City government to speak to the federal administration for about 170 serious crimes. The concerns that many New Yorkers have are around the enforcement of immigration laws on New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and most recently we're talking about a mother and her 2 children, how this has very little to do with what that is.
Mr. Mamdani,
What we did is we discussed crime, more than ICE per se. We discussed crime, and he doesn't want to see crime, and I don't want
Right.
to see crime. And I have very little doubt that we're not going to get along on that issue. He wants to, and he said some things that were very interesting as to housing construction, and he wants to see houses go up. He wants to see a lot of houses created, a lot of apartments built, et cetera. And we actually people would be shocked, but I want to see the same thing.
And that's what's so shocking about this meeting. Everybody expected this to be some sort of boxing match. Everybody expected this to be some sort of war between America and the Soviet Union, but that's not what it is. Trump has done what I think is something very smart by not alienating people who may have voted for both him and Mr. Mamdani, by focusing on affordability and making it look like he wants to work with the Democrat Party. Here he is with the new head of the Democrat Party right here, a new rising force on that side. And he says, look, I want the same things. I want a better life for Americans. He wants a better life for Americans. We're going to try to figure it out. And you've got to understand something. Forget the partisan politics. People want to feel like their government is working for them. For so long, people have felt like their government works against them. This is putting an end to that.
Now, the anti-Israel protesters.
Oh, anti-Israel. Now they're going to bring up
One of the,
Israel.
policies as well that Mayor-elect Mamdani talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes.
Oh, the
from
taxes.
what he called minority
taxes.
communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed
White
that
people.
in your acceptance speech, you didn't mention anything about America.
See, they're friends. This is a good meeting.
And so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform, because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court.
Right.
And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in
But
our
to be
city.
clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
That's what you said.
no, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description
Right.
of intent.
He's talking about how in New York City, you have areas where property values have exploded, like in lower Manhattan, where the property taxes on those buildings are actually less than buildings that look similar, but just happen to be in Brooklyn and Queens. And what he means here is rearranging the deck, so to speak. His terms were very inflammatory. I think that was on purpose to help win an election, but that election's over.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Fascinating. They're getting along.
Please, God.
Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters just targeted a synagogue in New York. Are you concerned about Jewish New Yorkers feeling welcome and safe in the city? And President Trump, you've threatened to cut off federal funding to New York City. What policies would
It's
prompt you to
Trump
do
and
that? Would that be
Mamdani
city-run
against the
grocery
media.
stores
That's the narrative
or
of the
something
room.
else?
Well, I think if we didn't get along, whether it's cut off or just make it a little bit difficult or not give as much, we want to see, I use the term, we don't want good money going after bad.
Right.
We don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I did say, subject to what policies are being said. We had a meeting today that actually surprised me. He wants to see no crime. He wants to see housing being built. He wants to see rents coming down, all things that I agree with.
Right.
Now, we may disagree how we get there, the rent coming down. I think
Socialism versus capitalism.
one of the things I really gleaned very much today, he'd like to see him come down ideally by building a lot of additional housing.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate way. He agrees with that, and so do I. But if I read the newspapers and the stories, I don't hear that.
Is
But I
Mamdani
hear- I
really
heard
a
him say it
socialist?
today, and I think that's
That's
a
the
very
question.
positive step. No, I don't expect. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great. Look, I love New York City. It's where I come from. I spent a lot of years there. Now I'm right here. We took a big setback with the mayor that we had, Dave de Blasio.
Yeah. Who wouldn't
It
work
was
with
a
Trump?
Tremendous setback for the city. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great.
It's almost as if Trump is hosting a foreign dignitary with views that are totally contrary to how things normally work in America, but isn't denigrating that person and is saying, look, I think we can work something out. Like, think of a meeting between Trump and Putin, or Trump and Kim Jong-un. That's what the style of this meeting is here. That, hey, we're not enemies. We don't have to be enemies. We might have massive differences that are huge. Capitalism, socialism, big differences, but there's a way to get things done. And at the end of the day, the president's a deal maker. And by having him and Zoran Mamdani on the same side of the aisle, literally, that's this shot right here. Them on one side, the media on the other. It's setting up something that's probably going to make Democrat voters who are rabid socialists and hate President Trump very upset.
Mr. President.
How about you? Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. President. You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani
Yeah, I
administration?
would. I would, especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought.
Democrats
I
are
think
going to hate
he's,
this.
I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, you know, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea.
Right. People
Because he was
forget
strong
that.
on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth,
Ooh.
many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, you know, it just turned out to be a statistical
Trump
truth.
is
But
piling dirt
no, I feel
on
very
the
comfortable.
tomb
I would be I
of
would
the
feel very,
liberal
very
Democrat
comfortable
Party.
being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but a very quick one for
Please.
the mayor. Why did you fly here? Aren't trains greener?
I
Not
use every
really.
form of transit, and I want to make sure that they're all affordable in New York City, and that's why making buses fast and free is a centerpiece of our campaign.
Did you?
There is a bus that
Well,
goes.
but I know, but if he flew, that's a lot quicker too. No, I mean he's working very hard.
What a dumb
For him to
question.
be- That's a very long drive. I'll stick up for you. You know, the plane takes
See?
you 30 minutes
Sticking
and
up
driving
for
takes
him.
you long.
You've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to
Yeah.
afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
you agree that President
Most
Trump will do
Americans
the peace
wanna
and
see their
work
government
hard to
work
make the
for them.
peace because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere. What do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I
Right.
also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights. And I know that still today, those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.